And I never consider myself a single issue candidate. And you get some candidates who want to run on one issue. They're either going to run on, I don't know, pollution, or they're going to run on schools, or they're going to run on, development, or they're going to run on whatever the case may be. And you stop to think, okay, well, once that one thing is done, then what? With me, it's always been just a gamut of whatever comes our way as far as the county. What do we need to do? And the issues sometimes blend one into another. Some issues stand out more so than others. But no, it wasn't one thing that I could say that the current council in 2006 wasn't doing this right. They weren't taking care of the schools, or they weren't taking care of the environment, or they weren't investing in economics. The way I wanted them to invest in economics. So it wasn't one issue. Permits and inspections, we've heard it for quite a while, and we have taken some steps already. We have a new automated system that we're about to go online this year called Munis, and what Munis will allow the user to do is to track that application from conception through completion, and it would also allow for more oversight from the county manager's office. He won't have to call down to Bay Street from Washington Street for a file to be brought over to him. He can simply go online and see where that application is in the process and what may be holding it up. So that Munis system is a way for the automation to be used to help assist in moving applications through the system. Most regulations that we deal with are top-down regulations. They come from the state. And we hear this all the time, there's too much regulation, too much regulation. Oftentimes the counties, who are a subdivision of the state government, we get our powers via the state government, we have to comply with those regulations. Now sometimes we can offer some pushback or some suggestions. Critical areas, one of those pieces of legislation that comes to mind, where counties are offering different suggestions back to the state as far as the implementation of critical areas. So, but when it comes to your building, zoning, those kind of things, they're top-down driven, and the counties sometimes have very little wiggle room. We have a health department here in the county, which is the state agency, and some people sometimes get confused between that and the county agency. So when they come to the counter and they see Talbot County Health Department and they're trying to put a septic system in, and their land won't pass PERC, well, we get the phone calls, we get the emails, and so we have to quickly turn them back over to where they need to talk to. But with this system, we are working very closely with our health department. They have access to the system. They are training right along with county employees with this new system, so that the transparency would be there. We're trying to move the process down. If we can't change the regulation, what can we do about the processing of the application? We're also bringing in a permits and inspection supervisor, because we understand that it's not just about the tool itself, the system itself, but it's about the human aspect of it. The customer service side of it has to also be addressed. And we've heard, people say that, that there's a way of saying no and not offending.
Yeah.
So we're going to bring a new supervisor on board to oversee that front counter, to make sure that the customer is coming in, because these citizens are our customers when they come to our counter. Maintenance of effort it's very troubling, because it removes the control from the county government, and it puts it into this mechanism that's based on wealth, this wealth formula, that I don't think the average person in Annapolis can explain to you. If you knock on the average delegate or senator's door and ask them to explain maintenance of effort to you, I'll be very surprised if they could. But it is based on a wealth formula. Here in Talbot County, we have the distinction of being known as being a wealthy county. And property-wise, that may be, but income-wise, we're not. We are not a wealthy county when it comes to average incomes. So we are disproportionately thrown into this wealth formula, and we come out at the bottom of the rung. And if people look at it, they say, well, Talbot County's not pulling their fair share. But that's could be further from the truth. We contribute about 75% of all schools' budget, where neighboring counties may contribute 25% of their overall school budget. So we are certainly putting forth the effort that's required to keep our schools funded at a level that will keep students educated and keep schools running appropriately. We have capital. We also have capital payments that we have to pay out as well, capital expenses on our school system. Yeah, 51% of the budget, and we'll try to hopefully maintain it somewhere in the low 50s. But you know, with the maintenance of effort, the bill also kicks in an accelerator, which is a 2.5% increase if you're not meeting their state minimum of effort. So, and that's really scary. What that would do to a budget that's already $34 million at 2% would really push us into a situation where we're going to have to stop robbing from Peter to pay Paul, so to speak. I've been working in the criminal justice field for over 20 years, and I've been working in the prisons, as I told you, as a volunteer for almost 10 years. So I've met a lot of individuals who've been locked up, and locking people up does not solve the problem of substance abuse. It doesn't. They'll come out just as eager as they went in if you don't impact them in other ways. We're losing a very good judge, Judge Ernest, who's retiring by mandate. He is a strong proponent of drug court. I'm a strong advocate of drug court. I think it works.
Talk about drug court.
Yeah, well, drug court addresses the holistic approach around the individual when it comes to substance abuse. It's not just a lock them up and throw away the key approach. United States is #1 when it comes to incarceration. We lock up more people than Russia and South Africa and South America and China. We lock up very good. We're very good at locking people up. What we're not good at doing is addressing persons when it comes to their mental and physical ailments. We need to get a handle on the current issue of substance abuse, not just from a lock them up and throw away the key approach, but from a holistic approach. I'm talking about prevention, intervention, education. As I said earlier, I was the chair of the Talbot Partnership, which, as you know, is an advocate for substance abuse here in Talbot County. And as that chair, we work very aggressively when it comes to prevention and trying to get the message out to young people to don't even try it. There's other ways to enjoy life without a beer and a cigarette and a joint. Yes, we need to give our law enforcement resources. If you look in the current budget, 7 of the 10 new hires here for the county are in public safety. 2 new deputies, 2 new paramedics, 2 new 911 operators. So the council has been responsible when it comes to public safety. But we also know that we're hearing from our health officer, Kathy Foster, who are also losing this year, and I'm sorry to see Kathy go. She was a joy to work with. But listening to Kathy, we understand that the state is slowly phasing out its funding when it comes to its addiction services in the counties. So what does that do? You know, now some people may say, well, great, because now it opens up an avenue for private addiction specialists to come in and start a business and therefore pay into the economy, and that's great. That's good. But the transition has to be such that you're not losing people through the cracks. Yeah. And if that occurs where you're losing people through the cracks, then they continue on with their addiction and maybe even get worse. So we have to manage this phase that we're going through now, understanding that the health department may be getting out of the addiction side of care and start working with private companies that want to come into the area and do this work, because we need it. We have to address it from the addiction side, from the prevention side. As we talked about dealing with the substance abuse, to hit it from a multi-phase approach, I think the same thing has to be done when we talk about cleaning up the bay. There is no silver bullet. It's not just to deal just with runoff from agricultural fields alone. It's not just dealing with over-fertilizing residential lawns. It's not just dealing with the Conowingo Dam and Alexalon, the new company up there, and whether or not they're going to dredge that pond or not, which I think they should dredge that pond. But it has to be a multi-phase approach. It has to be better wastewater treatment plants, and I think the state has invested dollars to upgrade some failing wastewater treatment plants around the state. It has to be better cooperation between local and state governments. The critical area legislation was very heavy-handed and came down hard, especially upon rural counties like Talbot County. So there has to be some give and take. It has to be allowed some autonomy amongst the counties if they can show that they have a plan to address some of the issues. Let the counties explore those plans. So it's multiple phases, it's multiple approaches that we should take as a state. And it can't just be to put it just at the doorstep of one industry, whether it be the farming industry alone. It just can't be that. So I think we have to look at a multi-phase approach when it comes to cleaning up the bay. I think across the board, the African-American community, like many communities here in Talbot County, suffer the same when it comes to lack of housing, when it comes to unemployment rate, when it comes to substance abuse, a lot of things that we talked about today. I think it impacts both sides of the table equally. The days have gone by where you could red district a block of people into a certain part of the city and redline them in and keep them into that certain block, and there you go. Those days are gone, thank God. So when the issues impact, they impact across the board. Now, with that being said, we still have an educational achievement gap that we have to correct here in Talbot County. And I'm committed to work with the current superintendent to do that. We have to get African American test scores up in line with their white counterparts and Hispanic counterparts. And so that means working with the schools, working with the teachers, working with the parents. And again, it's not a one-phase approach when it comes to dealing with this issue. Why do we see this gap, especially among African American males? Why is there a gap in math scores and in English scores? I saw one statistic that said that Spanish-speaking students were scoring higher in English than African American students. Now, how can that be? And English is a second language to them. Well, that, when I see data like that, it's very troubling to me. So there needs to be more effort in the African American community to work on issues like that, to get behind, beside the schools to say, what can we do as a community? One voice doesn't speak for all, but what can we do as a collective body of citizens to work with you? Does it mean more after school programs? If it means coming to the school board and being vocal and being seen, if it means coming to county council meetings during budget times and saying to the council members, we need more of this or more of that. Be seen, be heard, have a stake in the game. I enjoy it. If you ask me if I enjoy, yes, I do. I enjoy serving, and I kind of laid out to you, before I even took a political office what I was doing. And I was never been one just to sit back on the sofa and say, hey, I did my 7.5 hours, at the office and leave me alone. I always look for ways I can be involved in the community.